Welcome to this special edition of the AOV podcast. We unpack GameFi, the past, the present, and future. Right, Abe, where do we begin? Let's unpack GameFi by looking at the emergence of blockchain gaming. Maybe that's probably the best way to start.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because GameFi is a major movement in 2021 and in 2022, although the GameFi tokens are not performing much, it's still a major movement. And I'm hoping that in the near future, the next bull run will be triggered by a massive resurgence in interest in GameFi.
So, why do we need games on the blockchain? Yes, we've got consoles, the PlayStation, the Xbox of this world. We even have PC gaming where you've got stores like Microsoft and Steam. They are dominating it. The online games like Fortnite and the Call of Duty franchises, which is taking gaming online. What's the purpose of blockchain game? And then we'll move on to GameFi. I could do with a GameFi definition, but games are working fine at the moment. Why do we need games on blockchain?
Yes, games are working fine. And if they are adopting the blockchain technology, they can work better. Because for everyone, games are not only a source of entertainment, but also a point of nostalgia. So we all know that gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So if you are talking maths, in 2021 alone, Steam had around 10,300 new games. We are not talking about new players, but around 10k new games in a year. So there must be a lot of players in the system also.
The blockchain technology is in its infancy when we're looking at a wider timeline. Blockchain gaming is a fraction of that size. Steam and gaming has been maturing since the 1980s and into the 1990s, 2000s. It's good, 40, 50 years where gaming has really matured into an industry of its own. Do you think that the 10,000 games that are currently being built on Steam will slowly transition into blockchain gaming?
I mean, we cannot expect all the 10,000 ones to launch on blockchain because I still believe that having a centralized server might do well for games because there's no concept of decentralization in hosting servers, especially in Web2 games. But where blockchain could add more benefits to the gamers and games is the transfer of assets. So we know that people store playing cards and basketball cards for 30, 40, 50 years, and then after a certain period of time it is valued 1 million, 2 million. So that clearly reveals that nostalgia in art form is much appreciated in the space.
So you touched on transferable assets, and it feels like blockchain gaming is trying to solve that problem where users are taking ownership of the items that they purchase within games. Currently, they do take ownership, but it's on a centralized server. If that game disappears or that purchase cannot be applied within that gaming environment, then we're at mercy at either at that game studio or at that centralized server for them to either enable it. That's one thing. The other thing is that even within the gaming franchises, you can't transfer any assets that you've bought. So essentially, you're starting again from zero every time a new game is released. Is that the major benefit in terms of transferable assets and the problem that blockchain games is trying to solve?
Yes, you could say that. It's not just about ownership of assets, it's about preservation of assets also. Because currently we know that everything is digital. But the problem with being digital is that there's no ownership and there's no authenticity. Anyone can clone a certain gaming asset and claim that they hold that. Now, I'm not talking about flexing, I'm talking about being a community, being together, and the feeling of togetherness in a community. For example, if you are vibing or chilling in an NFT Discord, first thing the community asks for is to hold a certain NFT. So that feeling of social togetherness through digital platforms is becoming the need of the hour. And I think only blockchain gaming can solve the problem because it is transferable, the ownership can be proved easily, and it has a lot of benefits with decentralization also. There's no single point of failure, and it is pretty important.
Thanks for that, Abe. We've spoken a little bit about how blockchain gaming can benefit the current gaming industry. But what are the challenges in GameFi itself? Let's start off with a definition of what GameFi is and then move into some of the challenges that are currently being faced.
GameFi is an abbreviation of gaming finance. It is not about financing games, it also includes financing of games, but it is more about rewarding or incentivizing players for playing the game. It is a kind of marketing strategy, but done in a more effective and cost efficient way. And here in GameFi, there's a common misunderstanding that GameFi is only active when games are actively rewarding users with tokens like AXS tokens, AXI tokens, etc., for playing the game. But it doesn't have to be the case because now we have NFT assets, now we have skin as NFTs, now we have pets as NFTs, now we have AI algorithms and AI generated certificates as NFTs. Now, GameFi just transgressed from the form of mere a rewarding platform to a more enclosing, to a more holistic finance ecosystem. It's a market of its own.
I think you've touched on play to earn gaming. Where is that actually failing? You mentioned that it's not sustainable in terms of rewarding the players with tokens. Why doesn't that work? And what are the potential solutions with that? We saw that Axie Infinity was spearheading such a movement and it gained a lot of players and traction. But the price action of late, it seems like it may never hit those all time highs again. If we are not doing play to earn, what is the way forward for this?
I think play to enjoy or play for fun should be the motto of every games that is being released right now. I'm not disrespecting the play to earn movement because it was crucial. It was the main reason behind the exponential growth of GameFi industry, especially gamers in Southeast Asia, Philippines. They realized that they could potentially earn more by playing the game rather than going to regular work. So you can evidently see that from their monthly average income doubling or tripling by playing just Axie Infinity, and that was a pretty good moment. But we didn't think of the potential after effects because now we have certain people, certain gamers who are playing the game just to earn. They are not playing game to have fun, they are not playing game to make a community, etc. Although actually tried to solve it by forming communities everywhere, it was way overvalued and the rewarding mechanism was unsustainable. And that's the problem with all of these play to earn games.
Can play to earn work? We saw that Axie Infinity set the standard. We saw that it did invite and have a massive player base. Is that the end of that experiment? Play to earn is now finished and will not work, or essentially it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I think you're right. Play to earn is not sustainable. But will it work in the future? Of course, it will work. Humans are attracted to incentives inherently. So, when there's a new game offering big incentives, of course, players will be attracted to it. And although it can be a necessary medicine to onboard users into Web3 gaming space, it cannot be daily bread. We have to launch much interesting, much graphically capable games in the space to attract market share from Web2 gaming industries. So, Schwab, you would be remembering the Star Atlas movement. The gaming IGO, initial game offering, did more than 100x in just a single day, and the game was launching at the market cap of 300 to 400 million. And that was uncommon and that was unusual. It literally signaled a bubble because multiple gaming launchpads arose. For example, we know that CDFi, GameFi, and Engine Starter, these all launchpads focused on games and they were launching gaming tokens, they were launching gaming NFTs with no bounds. Every games possessed a single set of tokenomics with necessary token reserves, treasury, incentives, LPs, and it was all the same. The people in the crypto space got bored of it. Now, if we want to move forward, we need graphically intensive games, but we need games that is actually fun to play. So the incentive ultimately should be fun that you get from the game.
Are gaming launchpads the way forward to attract new users and new investors? essentially to build out more fun and enjoyable games.
These launchpads, IGO platforms, were an offshoot of the 2017 ICO bubble. Literally in 2017, every project launched as an ICO, initial coin offering, and potentially on listing they made 20 to 50x. And it was easy money for investors. But the current IGO platforms, they are much focused on one ecosystem and one type of games, that is blockchain gaming. And raising money through IGO platforms, although it sounds a massively lucrative scheme, but it has its demerits because now you need constant buy pressure from new users to retain the token value. Now that's a difficult thing to achieve because bear markets and bull markets happens alternatively and this gaming launchpad token suffers. Now I genuinely think that CDFI can stay for the next bull run, but other platforms I don't think they have a future for the next bull run.
We mentioned launchpads and we mentioned, well, we touched on tokenomics. We'll revisit tokenomics in a minute. But from a user's or gamer's perspective, isn't the barrier to entry for blockchain games a lot higher? So if they are required to purchase NFTs to be part of that ecosystem, usually if transaction fees are 10, 30, $40, that's quite close to how much a game and owning a game is, but that's just for one single transaction fee. That's not even for the asset. So are the users actually benefiting from this, and could it be improved in the future if not?
There's always room for improvement, that's for sure. But what exactly are games trying to achieve here? Do they want to retain users or do they want to capture new users? If they want to capture new users, they'll have to offer incentives. If they have to retain users, they'll have to improve the quality of the game. So, for most games, most gaming projects, the first option becomes a much easier and practical one for gaming projects. And that's where we go wrong with the gaming ecosystems and its future.
What are the roles of guilds and DAOs have in blockchain gaming? Is that a way or a mechanism to either incite talent or increase users or players and community?
Yeah, we mentioned about retaining users, right? Now, guilds offer a place for the experienced users to interact with newcomers or existing users. I think guilds and DAOs are very necessary and is the future for gaming. And we touched upon the barrier of entry, right? There's not only the monetary barrier of entry, because I think for blockchain gaming, it's much higher because you know that you can play most of the Web2 games for free and you only require to pay money if you want to purchase additional assets. But to play a blockchain game, you need to purchase NFTs, you need to purchase the coin, you need to maybe buy some skins, buy some avatars from the marketplace, and you need gas for this. So there becomes multiple problems, multiple barriers of entry. First is a technical barrier of entry. People don't know about setting up a wallet and buying coins for gas fee. They don't even know what's gas fee. So there's one thing about technical barrier of entry. And the second is the financial barrier of entry, which you correctly mentioned. No Web2 gamer will be able to spend $100 to $200 just to experiment on a game and stop playing and skip to the other one. And we know that most of these gaming NFTs are illiquid right now. So this is a problem we are going to face in the future. Now, third is the psychological barrier of entry. It is pretty difficult to convince a normal Web2 gamer to playing a Web3 game. People love inertia, people love stability, people love continuity, and to adopt a new technology, a new paradigm shift, they're not capable of doing that unless they are attracted to do that. So, to attract these traditionally set mindsets, I think we'll need to offer much more than just DAOs or guilds.
You mentioned about gas fees, wallets, transactions, the high costs and barriers to entry for blockchain gaming. Does a blockchain gamer need to have an understanding of blockchain and how it works? I think the drive is to make it as seamless as possible so that any user can pick up a control pad, keyboard, mouse, and interact, start playing a game. But the way it is currently, that onboarding process is very clunky. We spoke a bit about users and the challenges that they have. Let's shift our focus on the tokenomics. In regards to the future, how could gaming tokenomics work? Because there's a lot of learnings that the industry has already gone through. Where do you see tokenomics specifically heading and the right setup for that?
Axie had set the precedence of launching a dual token economy. One token will be the governance coin, and the other will become utility coin or incentive coin. Axie had AXS and SLP. So, following the dual token economy model, many projects launched the same system with similar tokenomics, similar vesting schedules, and it was all a copy paste mechanism in the space. And then some projects even launched a triple token economy model where one token is necessarily a stable coin. Now we should consider each game as an independent, isolated financial ecosystem. So, what's the need of a token? If there's a clear need of governance and if there's a clear need of rewarding users, I think there should be a token in place. But if you are just a browser based game where you don't reward users, you just let them play the game, then there's no point in launching a tokenomics. Then there's no point in launching a token either. And what should be the total supply? What should be the circulating supply? What should be the inflation? These topics has to be debated with the community that's playing the game. And launching a token is always considered a centralized decision by the gaming team. It shouldn't be. I think the community should decide what the gaming token should look like. And maybe games should go back to the equity model where they share their profits and they display their annual revenue.
You see, when you say gaming teams should consult the community in the tokenomics setup, that doesn't sit well with me because when a community and a project kicks off a gaming vision, I think between the execs, between strategy, between the very business model that the game hinges on, tokenomics need to play a certain role. I think if we go into asking the community for their opinions, who will be less knowledgeable in both the dynamics and stresses of running a business, if we look to the community for their advice, I think we can run into problems by designing game economies, game ecosystems, and the game itself by committee. That's not really an ideal setup because now you're trying to satisfy tens of thousands of people or a few hundred people as opposed to a strategy team or a game economy team. I do agree with you when you say that value and equity needs to be shared back with the users. Maybe this is the way forward where it's not just a single entity or a gaming studio or an umbrella company that is milking a gaming franchise, but the way forward now is to be inclusive and to share those profits with the most active players and all of its community. So I think if we can head towards that direction, blockchain gaming then suddenly becomes a big differentiator between what we have from the current gaming setup and the gaming industry. I'm just a bit wary of the transition and the cost for onboarding new users and how much they need to feed into this ecosystem. Abe, what are your thoughts in what I've just said?
I'll tell you an example. Killbox was a really cool game. It reminded me of Call of Duty. It was very fun to play. And one day, due to an exploit, Kbox token dropped 99% just in a day. And it didn't have anything to do whether the game was bad or whether the game was outstanding. It just dropped because of some malfunction or some hacking. The reasons are unknown to date. So, what happened next was surprising for me. Gamers stopped playing Killbox game. Now, so the game is only played when the token is performing. And that's not actually gaming, that's just speculating on the future of ROI that you can get by investing in the gaming tokens. So, what if a community decision was in place to decide on the gaming token? It's a big future, and currently, we don't have any necessary infrastructure, we don't have educated opinions, we don't have experts in the GameFi space because it's such a nascent industry.
For sure, we will work it out and it will be one blockchain game that does crack this problem or balance between tokenomics, asset ownership, giving back to the community, and rewarding the game players. We've not currently seen that at the moment. And right now, I do feel that we are in the experimental phase. We have learned that play to earn gaming is not sustainable. It needs to be on intrinsically fun. At the same time, barrier of entry and the reward system needs to be low and the rewards need to be high. So, being where we are in this birth of a new industry, what is the new narrative in GameFi and what can we expect looking forward into 2023?
We do need to consider certain things that's beyond the control of gaming leads. For example, gaming creators, gaming investors, and the gaming community. Because now we have more investments in the gaming space from institutional investors. A16Z has a 600 million gaming fund, and it is gonna flow into new gaming projects in 2023. That shows that the GameFi sector is still hot even in a bear market. And what should be the next narrative? I think the next narrative should be different from play to earn or any of the existing gaming narratives. I think the next narrative in 2023 will be around metaverse. Dubai is already making moves to construct a full-fledged metaverse based on the city, and Korea is making moves. Philippines is making moves. And when we see all these countries are launching metaverses, virtual galleries, I think that should be the next movement in the gaming space. That will be the next narrative. Metaverse was already a narrative in 2021, but that was not related to games. That was specifically for the overall experience of virtual reality. Now we might see a future where metaverse gaming is a reality. We know that Sandbox, although it's offering a kind of metaverse, it's nowhere close to perfection. Similarly, Decentraland, it has its flaws. It doesn't even have enough user volume these days. So we might see a movement in the direction of metaverses from the gaming space.
Thanks for that. There's so much more to unpack. We didn't look into games or blockchain games that are doing it well. We've established where we've been, the problems that this new industry is facing, and potentially where it could go forward into 2023. In our next drop of a deep dive on GameFi, we will consider some use cases, some examples of metaverse games, the good, the bad, the ugly, and potentially see what could the winners be. And we'll look at it from an investor's perspective to see that if you wanted to get into this area of Web3, what can you do as an investor? I think we'll wrap up here. This has been super fun. I am glad you are able to jam with us today. That's it. Until next time, thanks everybody, and we're signing off.